All right, folks. 2025 March Madness. Perfect picks. Never made an incorrect pick in the year of 2025, so I would recommend you copy this bracket because I don't plan on making an incorrect pick right now. Again, still join my bracket pool. You win it, you get a $25 gift card. It's free. There's no buy-in, and it's a $25 gift card of your choice. Should be fun. Should be fun. Plenty of room left. So let's not delay anymore. Let's get in these picks. So we'll start. We'll basically just go from the top to the bottom, and then from the top to the bottom. It's pretty simple. Um, and we'll start with this game right here. So number one Auburn versus either SFU or Alcorn State. You know, I picked the play-in games, although they don't really make a difference in your bracket pool. And I'm just gonna tell you right now. I don't really need to look at any more. I mean, Alcorn State's probably going to win that game. FSU, a losing record, 8-8 in their conference. They're only in because they won their conference championship, I imagine. Um, so, I mean, they played a tougher strength of schedule, but at the end of the day, um, free throw percentage it's actually in um, SFU's favor. I just I just don't know. I mean, I'm gonna look at the New England Conference. Um, well, you know what? I can just do this. We can just look at the last opponents or whatever. Um, there's a way to do that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there we go. Last 10 games. Oh, Alabama State, not Alcorn State. Um, yeah, I mean, they just Alabama State beats those teams, and actually SFU beat most of their teams, but that has to be recently because they lost 8. So I don't know. These games don't really count to your point total. I'm just going to trust that Alabama State has the better record and they're going to win this game against SFU. And it doesn't really matter because they play Auburn in the first round. I know Auburn is like, kind of on a slide here in the past few games, but little bracket suggestion here: never pick 16 over a 1. It's happened twice in history. Um, it's a good way to get your bracket an imperfect pick right away. Louisville Creighton. This is a tough pick for Louisville here. I'm assuming a tough draw for Louisville, an 8 seed. I feel like they're better than that, but they really value the strength of schedule, the committee. Um, and at the end of the day, the ACC is a terrible conference this year. And if Louisville had beaten Duke without Cooper Flag, they probably would have been a 5 seed at least. But you know, Creighton on the other hand, a team with they're well coached. They're good every year. They almost beat St. John's. Um, and I know it says the strength of schedule is harder here for Creighton, and I'm not a Louisville hater. I really don't. Like before the bracket came out, I really thought that Louisville had a chance to make a run, and they very well might make a run. I think this is going to be a great game, but at the end of the day, you have a team here in Creighton that is a perennial in the tournament team, Sweet 16, against a team that has just recently, thank goodness, been back. Um, and you're well, what about statistics? Statistics and all this and all that. Well, at this point, when you get an 8-9, these teams are going to be close. Again, like it's a 1 point difference in the free throw percentage here, and the 3 point percentage, it's a .9 difference. It's not really that big of a deal. Um, and Creighton, they just have some big guys that I'm just not sure, um, you know, Louisville will be able to stand up to. I'm gonna go Creighton. It really does pain me to say that. Um, I really wanted Louisville to make a bit of a run here, but this is just such a tough draw. I got to go with Creighton. But again, Louisville could absolutely surprise me. Michigan winners of the Big Ten versus I believe that's California, San Diego. I believe that's who that is. Um, I mean, Michigan's going to win this game. I understand it's a 12. v5 matchup, and these can be kind of interesting. But Michigan has the 9th biggest strength of schedule in the country. You know, they're better on, almost every metric. Although, again, I mean, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage, I mean, there's a reason that they're 30-4, 18-2, they're 12 seed. I understand this might be a tough one, but, I mean, you got to really just point out that they haven't played a good team. So, I mean, Michigan, they're not going to lose this game. Well coached, Dusty May. Texas A&M versus Yale. Yale, what an interesting matchup this is. Yale beat Auburn last year in the round of 64. And Texas A&M is a 4 seed. They're a good team, man. They are a good team. But the problem is they can't shoot the three. They suck at it. They can't shoot free throws. They suck at that. And they can't shoot. They suck at that. Compared to Yale, who really is high up here in some of these. Wade Taylor is an elite player. And Texas A&M has had some big wins this year. I mean, they have beaten Auburn, and they're in the SEC. They got a winning record there. And that is possibly why they're so low here. You could be tempted by looking at these, percentages to pick the upset. But at the end of the day, I think Texas A&M is just a better team. And this game will probably be closer than you think. I think that 3-point percentage there is going to help. But Texas A&M is really a defensive team, so as far as I know. So we will see how that goes. I just think Texas A&M probably just a little bit better, a little bit well coached. Buzz Williams, good coach. Another SEC team, Ole Miss, the Rebels against San Diego State and North Carolina. North Carolina, a fraudulent team, shouldn't really even be in. They've really gotten the bias here. I'm going to go with San Diego State to win that game. And Ole Miss, 5th strength of schedule in the country, and 3-9 versus top 25. I mean, that's insanity. But you got to remember that Ole Miss handed it to Louisville earlier in the year. Chris Beard's a good coach, although I hate him. The Strangler, Chris Beard. But San Diego State can't shoot 3 free throws, and, Ole Miss can. So even if this game's close, it's really going to come down to that. I just think Ole Miss is just a lot better. I mean, the SEC is just so good this year. Iowa State versus Lipscomb, 3v14. Nothing against Lipscomb. Iowa State's just a better team. I mean, yeah, I can't really say anything other than that. Do I think Iowa State's going to go very far? Nah. I mean, it's sometimes you just got to take into account that these are teams that are just in completely different leagues and who they have to play. So, yeah, Iowa State, are they mediocre? Maybe. Are they better than Lipscomb? Yeah, they're better than Lipscomb. Marquette and New Mexico. Rick Pitino's son, I believe, coaches New Mexico. I don't think they won their conference, though. No, they didn't. They didn't even make the championship game. So, that being said, they're still in. They're 10 seed. I mean, you could definitely look for an upset here. But, I mean, Marquette, I mean, it's just a tough one here. Is this an upset to say that New Mexico would win? Yeah. I mean, Marquette, better coached probably, and is just probably a better overall team. They're definitely in a down year compared to where they were, but we shall see. Michigan State and Bryant. I don't really have to look at anything here. Michigan State's just been so good this whole year. But they did not win the Big Ten, so, I mean, what can you really say? But they're 2 seed for a reason. So, I mean, if you look at that region, I mean, I didn't really pick any upsets, but you don't really have to. I mean, if I was going to pick an upset, honestly, I feel less confident about the Iowa State Lipscomb game. But yeah, so I mean, just keep that in mind. Gonna go to the West here. Florida versus Norfolk State. I don't really have to pick this one. Florida won the SEC, therefore they're going to beat Norfolk State. UConn, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is going to beat UConn. This isn't an SEC bias thing. UConn is just unbelievably mediocre this year, and Oklahoma has better players. They have a player that's going to be at the NBA, Jeremiah Fears. They're just a better overall team, and UConn has been pretty much bad in the non-conference, and they really haven't been able to recover. So we're going to go with that one. Oklahoma, 9 seed, beating UConn. Colorado State versus Memphis, a 5 seed. Memphis, I believe, won today, the AAC. Basketball. Yes, they did, and they won. It's not really that big of a deal for Memphis to win the AAC. They should. Is this a team that I would pick an upset over? Yes. Yes, and there's some games that just aren't going to make sense. And I just don't trust Penny Hardaway at Memphis. I'm going to go with Colorado State. You can look at the percentages here, and you can say they're better at free throws, and yeah, that would be true. They're better by a lot. So if this game's close, I'm going with Colorado State, and I just don't trust Memphis to be that good. Let's take a look at Maryland, Grand Canyon. Maryland's better. They outscore their opponents by a lot. I mean, they're just a better team overall. Virtually by every metric. Haven't played a top 25 team versus a team that has. Grand Canyon, nothing against them, but Maryland is just better. Missouri and Drake. I watch Missouri play, and I watch them play against good teams, and it makes me think that they can beat Drake, right? Drake, they're 30-3, they got a better record, and you gotta, keep in mind, 27th strength of schedule versus 143rd, hasn't played a top 25 team, better at free throws, Missouri is, better at 3-point, better at field goal percentage, better players, close game here, maybe, right? But, do you really think that Missouri would have lost to a team like Bradley by any stretch of the imagination? I'm just not sure. So I'm going to go with Missouri here, just an SEC sort of thing. Texas Tech in UNC Wilmington. Nothing against UNC Wilmington. I feel like Texas Tech is one of those teams that, they're a high-scoring team, and I don't think that UNC Wilmington will be able to keep up. Again, this is March Madness. Anything can happen, right? I'm not confident in any pick. But Texas Tech loses to relatively good teams, and they've beaten some teams that will be in this tournament too. So I just think Texas Tech is probably just better. Kansas, Arkansas, we're going to go with Kansas. I mean, Arkansas, just such a mediocre team. Boogie Flan's probably going to be back for Arkansas, but I mean, they were bad when he was playing. So Sean Calipari, his system is just so bad. And Kansas, while they're also a mediocre team, they're just, I don't think they're good enough to beat. I don't think they're good enough to go far, but they're definitely good enough to beat Arkansas just because Bill Self is a better coach. So we're going to go with that. St. John's, Omaha, I'm going to go St. John's. Just coaching here. Nothing against Omaha. They did win. They're not a three-point shooting team at all. Free throws are bad. But at some point, the record has to speak for itself. The strength of schedule has to speak for itself. I mean, that's a 5-1 record versus top 25 teams. That's nothing to scoff at. We're going to go with St. John's here, Rick Pitino. So that's the left side of the bracket. We got a long way to go. Duke, and they will play either American or they will play. Is that Mount St. Mary's? I think that is Mount St. Mary's. Does it matter who wins here? I'm just going to go with American in that game. Not that they're going to win against Duke, but Yeah, I mean, I just I don't think there's really much question here. Any of these teams could win, but I'm just gonna go with American. And Duke will win that, especially if Cooper Flag plays. I'm not even sure they're going to need Cooper Flag to beat American. Baylor, Mississippi State's 50-50 with people on this one. Um, and, when in doubt, I just say conference and free throws, you know, better conference, but also free throws. So, I mean, Scott Drew's probably a better coach than Chris Johns. Um, yeah, I can't bring myself to say that Mississippi State's going to be anything. Baylor's mediocre, um, but it's going to take a really good game for Mississippi State um, to beat Baylor. Um, and it's also going to take a good game for Baylor to beat Mississippi State. I think that's going to be a close one, but I'm going to go with Baylor in that one. Oregon and Liberty, I mean, I would, again, 5-12 upset. Yeah, I mean, not this one. Oregon's better usually. I forget the name, Dan Lantham or something like that. I forget his name, but they're usually just better with him. Um, and free throws, a big difference here. So I'm just gonna go with Oregon to beat Liberty there. Arizona and Akron. This should be a fun match actually. Arizona's kind of heating up at the right time though. People kind of wrote them off earlier in the year, but it's no point. I mean, Akron really good in the Mid American, but um, not enough to, and they barely beat Miami, Ohio in that championship game. So I'm going to go Arizona here. Tough draw for Akron, but Arizona should pull that one out. BYU versus VCU, winner of the A10 conference, VCU, and the Big 12, BYU. I mean, this could go either way, but free throws, 3-point. I mean, at the end of the day, didn't play any good teams. Did play good teams. Sometimes you just got to keep that in mind. Is Wisconsin fraudulent? No, they made it to the Big Ten championship game. They didn't win, but I mean they should beat Montana. They should beat Montana. I mean they're the best in the country at free throws. They should beat Montana at least. We'll go with that there. Vandy, St. Mary's. We're gonna go with Vandy here. And you could look at these percentages, and Vanderbilt beats them in a lot of these. It'll be a close game, but I just trust that Vandy has been better, and they have. Look, I mean, the net doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not sure that even matters. But, yeah, I just think, for whatever reason, just feel like the SEC trumps any team in the West Coast. Even Gonzaga. Maybe besides, I mean, Gonzaga won the West Coast Conference, so I guess we'll see. Alabama and Robert Morris. It's going to be Alabama. If you saw Alabama beat Kentucky, when they play like that, they'll beat anybody. And I'm sure if they play half like that, they can beat Robert Morris. So we're just going to go with Bama there. And final round of 64, Houston, SIU, or excuse me, SIUE. Again, you just pick the one seed here. But I'm not a big fan of Houston. I don't trust Houston. Gonzaga, UGA. I think UGA is very mediocre. They're going to lose to Gonzaga here. Bulldogs versus Bulldogs. I understand that the strength of schedule is tougher. But at the end of the day, it might be close, but I go with coaching here. So, looking for an upset, I'm going to go with McNeese over Clemson. Clemson, I believe, has a guy that's been very good. He's hurt out for the year. One of these guys. And Will Wade's a good coach. I hate to say that, but he is. Could they disappoint? Absolutely. I think I picked them to win last year, but they didn't. It's not going to happen twice. McNeese on a hot streak. And they beat teams by a pretty good margin too, most of the time. At least it seemed not all the time, but they're a good team. They're a good team. And Clemson's also a good team. But I mean, how much stock do you put in it that they beat SMU by 3, you know, or, you know, I mean, some of these wins are good, but Duke is a good win, definitely, and that's why they're here. But with that injury, I don't know much about Clemson, but I'm just going to assume that they're, and then they made it to the Elite Eight last year. So, but I am going to pick the 12 over 5 here. You got to pick some madness. Sometimes the stats aren't going to mean anything. Purdue and High Points. I mean, this could absolutely be an upset here. Purdue doesn't impress me in the slightest. But I mean, I feel like they're probably better than High Point on a given day. Although you could absolutely pick one. I mean, like, look, I mean, if High Point was to win this game, they'd play a 12 seed, right? And that could be a, you know, upset. And you know what? I might do it. I might give High Point the win. I mean, again, there's just some things that are madness, and you have to pick with madness. And if you think this is going to be a close game, the free throw percentage is higher here, you know. So I'm just going to go with that. I mean, I got to pick some madness. You just got to pick some madness. You got to have a Cinderella because it's going to happen. Interesting one here, Illinois versus the winner of Texas and Xavier. I think Texas will probably beat Xavier. Texas is in the better conference, and one of their players is just so good. He's going to be in the NBA. I forget his name. That's it. Trey Johnson, right here. He's unbelievable. And you know, I want to pick Texas over Illinois, and you know, again, you got to pick some upsets. But to me, the free throw percentage is, you know, really close here. 3-point percentage, Illinois can't shoot it. Texas can shoot it. Better conference. Last 10 games, Texas, let's see who they lost to. Tennessee. Oh, wait. You know, they made it to the SEC championship game. Lost to Oklahoma, who's good. They beat Kentucky. You know, and South Carolina and Arkansas, those bad losses. Oh, wait, they went to OT versus Arkansas. Oh, my goodness, lost to Alabama. So terrible. You know, so I just, you know, you have to be able to shoot threes in modern basketball, and Texas can do it. And there's just some losses here that are tough. You know, there's some tough losses here, especially getting blown out in their last game versus Maryland. I think Texas is going to win that game. Kentucky versus Troy. Kentucky doesn't have a point guard back. They're going to beat Troy. You need to look at Troy's, third strength of schedule in the country. You need to just look at Troy's, the amount that they score points per game. It's just not, it's not good. Kentucky's just up there. I mean, they have, and especially if they're going to have a point guard, they're going to be able to beat Troy. I don't think Mark Pope's going to lose that game. UCLA, Utah State. UCLA has not impressed me all year. Upset here. That's not enough. 7-10. But yeah, I mean, look, these two teams are tied for free throw percentage. They're tied. So therefore, you got to go up to 3-point percentage. UCLA, they just have had a problem all year, and I don't really know why that is. They just got bad vibes, and Tennessee will beat Wofford. I mean, again, but 15 seeds beating 2 seeds. Yeah, they have, but at the end of the day, that's so rare. To me, it's so rare. I just think Tennessee's got this one here. I mean, every stat points to that, really. And they're tied for the 3-point percentage, but yeah, Tennessee's going to win that one. All right. Back to the bracket. We're at 25 minutes, by the way. We're at 25 minutes. Let's roll through this. Auburn, Creighton. Auburn's better than Creighton. I mean, you can look at the stats here if you want. But will this game be closer than I think? Yeah, but Auburn's just more physical. They got Janai Broome. Michigan, I think, will beat Texas A&M. I really do. I mean, Texas A&M fraudulent, really, if you look at how they've played. I gave them the win over Yale because of coaching. I'm giving the coaching here to Michigan. So Auburn, Michigan in the Sweet 16. Ole Miss, Iowa State. I'm going to go Ole Miss here. And you could say that's SEC bias or whatever, but at the end of the day, you just There's just, you get a feeling about some of these things. You get a feeling. And losing to BYU twice, not double overtime, right? But Oklahoma State, that's a bad loss. But sometimes you got to pick chalk, I guess. Got to pick chalk. And Iowa State, almost lost to Arkansas. So we're gonna go Iowa State actually. Revert my picks there. Marquette, Michigan State. I think Michigan State's a better coach than Marquette. I gave them a close win over New Mexico, but I just don't buy that one. Florida, Oklahoma. Florida won the SEC. They're going to beat Oklahoma, who barely lost to Kentucky. But yeah, got the upset team, Colorado State versus Maryland. I'm going to go with Maryland here. Again, sometimes the upsets, they just don't mean too much. And Maryland outscores its opponents by quite a bit. So yeah, we're going to Maryland advance to the Sweet 16. Missouri, Texas Tech. This is where I think Missouri runs out because they just, when they face a good team, they just kind of collapse. So Texas Tech in the Sweet 16. St. John's is going to beat Kansas. Like I said, Kansas, very mediocre, and they beat a very mediocre Arkansas team. Coaching, great coaching matchup here. But St. John's, to me, if you just look at how they play, you can't. 30 wins. You can't beat that. Duke and Baylor. Duke with Cooper Flag will beat Baylor. Baylor is mediocre. Mississippi State's mediocre. Yeah. Arizona's getting it right at the right time. Do they get upset sometimes? Yes. Would be beating Oregon. It would definitely be an upset if Arizona lost to Oregon. But I think they're better than Oregon. BYU, Wisconsin. It's a weird one to me. Big 12 versus Big 10 team. It's just a matter of whether you think free throws or 3 points matter. And in March, when it gets to these close games, free throws matter. And I'm not a big Wisconsin guy, but I think they can beat BYU. Vandy and Bama. Watch Bama play, watch Vandy play. It's incomparable. Houston and Gonzaga. This is just one of those where you have to think about it from an analytical perspective. Gonzaga is mediocre, right? But they do have a better history in this tournament than Houston does. Houston should beat Gonzaga. And they very well might beat Gonzaga because compared to previous years, Gonzaga is just not as good. If this was last year's Gonzaga, I might have picked them to beat Houston, but yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go chalk here. I just think Houston probably it's just better. They're probably just better. Interesting matchup here. I doubt this matchup will happen. Do I really switch one of these? If I switch one, I'd be more confident in Clemson beating McNeese. But I gotta go with my picks. I gotta go with my understanding of things. And in this one, I would trust Will Wade more than I do whoever the heck coaches High Point. So McNeese, Cinderella, Sweet 16. Texas versus Kentucky. They've team played before. Kentucky beat them Texas beat Kentucky when Kentucky didn't have a point guard. Kentucky will have a point guard. I think Kentucky would have beaten Texas if they did have a point guard the first time. So I'm going to go with Kentucky here to advance to the Sweet 16. Tennessee, Utah State. Tennessee's just better than Utah State in every metric. Doesn't really, maybe not. 3 point, it's 2 point difference here. So Tennessee should beat Utah State. In UK, Tennessee will be a fun matchup there. Back to the top, Elite 8, Auburn, Michigan. Let's go Auburn. I can absolutely see Michigan winning this game, especially if Auburn's on a slump. But I just don't think that Auburn is in that, world right now where they will get beat by a team that is significantly worse than them. Iowa State, I've kind of had them coasting so far to the Sweet 16. They're not going to coast over Michigan State. So, I mean, unfortunately here, for all the people who hate picking the chalk over Michigan State, winner here. Interesting. Florida, Maryland. Florida is just better. They're just better than Maryland. Um, Maryland could keep this one close, and it might come down to 3-point percentage, but I just think Florida's so much better. Texas Tech St. John's, give me the coaching battle here. It's just so interesting. Give me the coaching battle. Yeah, I mean, I just feel like the coaching here could be. Maybe St. John's will disappoint me, but again, we get a 1v2 matchup again. Ugh. Ugh. So this is where we get, down to the nitty gritty. Arizona and Duke. Arizona doesn't and never does anything in the tournament really. They might win a few games, but they don't win enough to beat a team like Duke. And Wisconsin and Bama. Wisconsin's a weak 3 seed. I mean, I hate how it's working out, but I hate it. I hate how it's working out. But we got 1v2, 1-2, and 112, 3-2. Oh man. Tennessee versus UK. Can Kentucky absolutely lose any of these games? Yes. It's just so weird. I'm gonna pick Houston to beat McNeese. I mean, if I have McNeese going this far, then Houston is going to beat McNeese. You know. Yeah, I mean, again, you just have to think about, like, does Clemson end up winning this game, and therefore, yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Clemson beating McNeese, and then Clemson versus Houston. I think Clemson could beat High Point, and I think Clemson's probably better than Houston. Why am I changing this up? Is because I know history here. I know history, and for whatever reason, I just know that Houston is always a disappointment. So it's so tough here. But if that's the thing, if it's McNeese or High Point, or even Purdue, probably Houston wins. Clemson is the only one that I feel like could make history right and win against Houston. So I'm gonna go Clemson to the Elite Eight. I know this is switching it up, but it's this first time I haven't made a bracket for this. So this year that is. Tennessee UK, tough one here, but UK has beaten Tennessee twice this year, and therefore Tennessee will beat Kentucky. They're not going to beat Tennessee twice in a year. People kind of wrote off Tennessee. And at the end of the day, Kentucky could absolutely win this game. I think this would be a great game, but Tennessee probably is just too good to beat, to lose to Kentucky 3 times. And therefore, our Elite Eight is set. We finally have not a 1 versus 2 here. Although this bracket, I mean, again, the bubble this year was weak. So you could absolutely see teams that are 1 and 2 going up against each other. Let's start with Auburn, Michigan State. This is going to shock some people. I'm going to go Michigan State. It is coaching. It comes down to coaching here. And Auburn, like I said recently, has shown to be vulnerable in some of these games. And when it's a close game, free throws matter, coaching matters, free throws will prevail. Michigan State, for me, to the Final Four. Florida, St. John's. Oh, man. Florida is such an impressive team to me. But when I see Florida lose, it's just bad. And I just don't think these stats right here prove the story of how good St. John's is. A 1 seed will make the Final Four. And this is Rick Pitino's second year at St. John's. Does the miracle continue? Or do I think Florida will overtake their Final Four woes since Billy Donovan left. Florida. I mean, oh, that pains me, but I have to say that. I just have to go with it. I have to go with it. I mean, I can't make a rationale at this point other than I just think Florida's a better team, and they've played better teams. So, yeah, Bama and Duke. Oh man, has John Schreier proven to me that he can make the Final Four? No. Has Alabama proven to me that they can make the Final Four? Yes, they have. They have. I believe they did it last year. Or maybe it was the year before. I forget. But Cooper Flag, right? But then I think of Philon for Alabama. I think of Mark Sears for Alabama. And I think Alabama's a better team. And I think Duke has coasted through an awful conference. And Alabama has become a 2 seed from the best conference. Alabama into the Final Four. Clemson, Tennessee. Did you guys know that Tennessee's never made the Final Four? Ever? For the men's tournament. For the women's, they definitely have. And the heartbreak will continue. I mean, if you ask why I've picked Clemson here to go this far, go on this run, it's because of historical precedent. The 1 and the 2 seed are teams that don't do anything in the tournament, right? And that's why you could absolutely see Kentucky going far in this. But with the injuries Kentucky has, I can't pick them to do it. So I'm just going to go with Clemson. I don't know how much that big injury, like I said before, will really put them over the top. Yeah, give me Clemson. Give me Clemson. Final Four. And here we go to our Final Four. Michigan State, Florida, Alabama, Clemson. We get down to the nitty-gritty. Michigan State and Florida. Who's a better team? Michigan State is better at free throws. Florida's better at three-point. And I know I've given Michigan State the benefit of the doubt this whole time. Right? They've got some huge wins. But at the end of the day, Michigan State has not really done anything for a good long while, championship-wise. If they've gotten far, they usually lose. And that's why I think this Florida era, man, it's such a good time to see Florida get back into the swing of things. And Alabama and Clemson. Clemson had the great run, but Alabama's better. And that sets up an all SEC championship. And, you know, this is where you look to see if these teams have played each other, and they have. Florida beat Alabama. Florida beat Alabama. Alabama has had some losses to some good teams. But when Alabama's on, they're on. And that's why, to me, I look at the stats. Free throw by 0.5. Florida is better by 0.6 at 3-point. Give me Bama. 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 Tiebreaker here. Tiebreaker. Total combined final score. I mean, let's just do like 70. Got to take into account free throws, so do 84 plus 76. I'm going to say 160. Total combined Final Four. There it is, folks. There's my first bracket. Will things change over time in my picks? Yeah. But no, never mind. This is the bracket you should copy. This is the best. So A 40-minute video. 40 minutes. Jesus. Wow. Yay.